Good afternoon. It's a real pleasure to welcome you to FM Conway's Disability Awareness Week. As a disability confident leader, FM Conway is passionate about the employment of people with disabilities within the construction industry. Through our daily expert-led lunch and learn sessions this week, we hope to challenge perceptions and offer recommendations on how the construction industry can and should be a first choice carer for people with disabilities. This will include sharing best practices for the employment of people with disabilities and how to create construction sites that are inclusive to all, as well as information on health conditions that are particularly relevant to those people working within our industry. Today we are delighted to be joined by Mitch Mitchell from our long-term partners Kent Supported Employment, who are an award-winning specialist employment service that support both individuals to gain and sustain paid employment and businesses to ensure a greater diversity of staff and skill sets to meet their needs. We have benefited from Kent Supported Employment's specialist knowledge to adjust our own practices and widen our pool of talent, and have collaborated with them to offer our employees, supply chain and clients disability awareness training. As valued partners in our own journey to disability confidence, we are thrilled that Kent Supported Employment will be opening the week by sharing more about the scheme and how companies can achieve disability confidence status. I hope this week will further inspire action and innovation both within our company and the wider construction industry. And I really look forward to hearing your thoughts and ideas as the week progresses. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Mitch. I'm the training coordinator for the Education People Specialist Employment Service. And it gives me great pleasure to start this series of workshops this week celebrating the International Day of People with Disabilities, which is Thursday, the 3rd of December, with a workshop on disability confidence in the workplace. Okay, so I work for Kent Support and Employment. We are part of Kent County Council's Education People, and within that I work for the Specialist Employment Service. In 2018, our service got national recognition for Team of the Year from the British Association for Supported Employment, which is the overall organisation that governs what we do. Our core mission is that we work with people with disabilities and or disadvantages, and we provide individualised person-tailored support to help people find and retain employment. Employment is something that brings equality for people with disabilities. We work with a wide range of people, anything from autism, learning disability, physical disabilities, and sensory impairments. As well as that, we've also worked with people who have had substance misuse issues in the past, people that come from a background of worklessness, and more recently, we've worked with Syrian refugees. We provide support for employers and employees alike. In the time that I've done this work, the emphasis has been a real shift towards viewing the employer as a customer. And we now have a dedicated employer engagement coordinator, a gentleman called Mark Perrin, who I'll be talking about later on. One of the things we do is we support employers to achieve disability confident accreditation. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running this workshop today, is to talk to you about our journey with FM Conway. And as well as that, we deliver a wide range of training packages, as well as delivering disability confident training and autism awareness training to employers. I myself, as the organisation's lead trainer, run a series of workshops that are very bespoke for our industry that sort of give staff the skills and abilities so that their organisations are able to support their clients into work as well. So, the International Day of Persons with Disability is a United Nations sanctioned day on Thursday, the 3rd of December. And the focus this year is on not all disabilities are visible. A lot of conditions are hidden. In fact, 70% of conditions are hidden. Part of the core mission of this is that to provide inclusive, accessible and sustainable societies, and nothing about us without us. It's quite interesting that during COVID-19, many people with disabilities have experienced isolation as a result of services being closed. So in the local area that I live, a lot of day services for people with learning disabilities are temporarily closed. And as I said, 70% of disabilities are considered hidden. Um, the World Health Organization kind of estimate at the moment around 15% of the world's population have a disability, which is 1 in 7. Hidden disabilities, the range is quite vast. It includes autism, back injury, chronic pain and fatigue, learning disabilities and learning difficulties. There's a difference between learning disability and learning difficulty. In its learning disabilities is linked to IQ. So to have a diagnosis of learning disability, IQ less than 70. And learning difficulties is a range of conditions that includes things like dyspraxia, dyslexia, dyscalculia. Mental health conditions, brain injury, sensory impairments such as sight and hearing loss, diabetes, neurological conditions, respiratory conditions. There's a difference between an acquired condition and conditions from birth. 85% of working age people with a disability have acquired it in their lifetimes, whereas only 15% are conditions from birth. And when someone acquires a condition, sometimes there can be a period of adjustment. Often, people might undergo some counseling or therapy or need adaptive equipment in order for them to lead a fulfilled, sustainable life. So, Disability Confident, it was launched in 2014 by the Department of Work and Pensions. It previously replaced the Job Centre Plus 2 ticks accreditation scheme, and the aims and objectives are as follows. For Disability Confident to challenge attitudes towards disability, to increase the understanding of disability, part of what my role is to work with local employers, to run workshops much like I've run for FM Conway, and to increase people's knowledge and understanding of disability. I think it was in a recent study by Hayes Recruitment that 25% of employers don't feel confident when speaking to people with disabilities, whereas 75% of employers do not. To remove barriers experienced by people with disabilities and those with long-term health condition, as the workshop goes on, hopefully you'll realise that sometimes the recruitment process can be a barrier for people. And to ensure those with a disability or long-term health condition have the opportunity to fulfill their potential and realise their aspirations. Work is something that brings equality to everybody. There are 3 levels of disability confident. There's the first level, committed, the second level, disability confident employer, and the third level, which is disability confident leader. So our work with FM Conway started when our employment engagement coordinator, Mark Parrin, met Sharon Field at a Sevenoaks Chamber of Commerce event. Part of the agreement at the start of the working relationship was to run a series of disability confident workshops. So far, I've delivered 4 today in your office down in Sevenoaks. As a result of the start of this, we started doing more networking events and joint collaboration. I attended a Job Centre Plus event with a couple of people from Conway's recruitment team to work with people with long-term unemployment issues and people with disabilities and those from a worklessness background. As part of what we do, we're always able to offer advice and guidance to various departments within any organisation that we work with. And more recently, we've been working to develop a disability confident e-learning module. Conway were one of the few organisations within Kent to actually achieve disability confident leadership status. And there are only four other employers in Kent that have achieved this accreditation. And our organisation has been instrumental in assisting 3 of those to achieve this high accolade. And there's only one other employer nationally within the sector that has achieved disability confident leadership status, and that's Kia in Manchester. So having read your corporate and social responsibility report and seeing all the wonderful things that your organisation does with people, it was quite interesting to see that you've achieved disability confident leadership status. And there was a quote from our employment engagement officer, a gentleman called Mark Parrin, to say that disability confident leader reflects the drive and commitment of a company to truly provide opportunities required for people with disabilities. And it's not achieved by many organisations. We've worked with FM Conway for the past 3 years, and Mark's absolutely correct that, you know, you are truly deserving of this highly acclaimed accolade. So I'm going to give you guys a case study, a gentleman that I work with who started work with your organisation, a young guy called Alex, who has Asperger's. And he was referred to us under a Department of Work and Pensions contract, which was to support people with autism and learning disabilities come off of benefits and move into paid employment. Alex, the way that we actually work with people is that we use a vocational profile, which is a holistic method of assessment. Traditionally, people with disabilities have kind of been assessed using traditional methods and sometimes don't fare particularly well. So I looked at Alex's skills, abilities, and maybe his support requirements. For those of you that know him, Alex has a keen interest in maths. When he did his GCSE non-calculator paper, he did the exam in half an hour, checked it 3 times, calculated the number of seconds that he'd been alive in his head. And when he actually got his results, he'd landed up with an A star. Clearly, as a result of this, he wanted to work in accounts. He was the UK National Junior Maths Championship 8 years on the trot. And I think probably it was a relief when he was actually too old to compete in that competition. When I was talking to Alex about some of the things that he has difficulty with, Alex is on the autistic spectrum, which is a lifelong condition that affects the way that people think, feel and behave and view the world around them. And I said to Alex, is there anything that you have difficulty with? And he said to me quite profoundly that for him, it's empathy. It's like being asked to go to the toilet for someone else. There's no concept of how that will feel. And it was clear that Alex wanted to move into accounts. So I got him on a Sage payroll course, which he absolutely flew past. But he wasn't actually being successful at interview. Sometimes the way in which people recruit is that you're required to fill out a form, like online. That's the way that most employers actually go for recruitment methods. And then sit in a room and talk abstractly about the work, but actually not actually prove your skills. But as a result of the work experience that the work we've been doing with FM Conways, they offered him a short work experience placement, or what we like to refer to as a working interview. And this allows people to come in and actually prove their skills and abilities, as opposed to sit in a room and talk abstractly about it. Alex was offered a 6-month contract with the internal audits team. I spoke to Alex the other day and said, what do you do? And he said to me that if you view Conway as a body, the internal audit team are there to mitigate risks. So they act like white blood cells, making sure that the company is able to perform. I know that from talking to Alex and keeping in touch with him, he's assists with refining processes and procedures. And he's currently undertaking an ACCA, an Association of Chartered Certified Accountants apprenticeship at MVQ level 7, which is the equivalent to a master's condition. We don't just work with people with autism, Asperger's, we work with a wide range of people with disabilities. And we're currently supporting a gentleman called Josh, who went to a school in Ashford, who has difficulties, he's got a learning disability. He's got difficulties with literacy and numeracy. And we arranged for him to start a supported internship, which is supported internship is a Department of Education like initiative that realizes that people maybe academically with learning disabilities may not fare too well within the curriculum. And it basically is a structured study program with an employer that gives people the opportunity to learn their skills in the workplace and develop a career. Quite often people, when they leave school with special educational needs, fall into the category of NEET, which means not in employment, education and training. And this gentleman had started working with this tarmac road surfacing company, and the employer was so impressed with him that he actually stopped the supported internship and offered him paid employment. So it shows you that everybody that we work with has individual skills and abilities, and as long as the right job match is found and the right employer is found, people can flourish and move into their sustainable careers. So the business case for employing people with disabilities or disabled people, because sometimes some of the individuals that we work with may have difficulties with reading and writing and literacy. You can access a wider pool of available labour. Traditional methods of recruitment often disadvantage people with disabilities. I'm going to be running a workshop on Wednesday about people who use BSL as a first language, but sometimes they're not able to understand because the grammar and syntax is different to that of the English language, although it uses the same amount of words, same words. There's a reduction in recruitment costs. Our organisation has been working with a local NHS trust, Kent Community Health Foundation Trust, around the NHS pledge to employ more people with learning disabilities. And as a result of it, we've had 20 clients move into paid employment within their trust. And I was speaking to one of the people that I know in the resourcing team, the HR team, and they said as a result of working with us, they think they've saved around £170,000 in recruitment costs. The support is available from our organisation to support individuals through the selection process. So we can support people with job applications, writing CVs, and also for, prepping people for interviews. We will well match individuals to roles. We're very big into job matching. It's absolutely imperative that if we keep relationship with employers, that we provide the right people for the right job. Employing people with disabilities can improve the diverse profile of the workforce and have really positive impacts. As a result of the work we've done with, sort of many employers across Kent, the retention rates that people actually stay in their jobs for is above national average, particularly with the NHS Trust that we're working with. They lose around 25% of their staff in the first 6 months, whereas our retention rate is that 75% of our clients move into paid work and sustain there after a year, 95% of people are still there. And you can become the improved company, the employer of choice. It can lead to innovations and products and services acts by different experiences and perspective. We're working with a holiday company who've made sure that all of their apartments are adaptive because of the number of acquired disabilities that are currently on the rise. And the value of the purple pound, which is the collective spending power of people with disabilities or households with disabilities, it is worth £249 billion to the British economy per year. I'm not sure if anybody sees the Malteser series of adverts that have been on the telly, which has been Mars's most successful advertising campaign in their 80-year history. Declaring your disability really isn't the stigma that it was years ago, and people are actively encouraged now to come forward to their employer and talk to them about it because the right help is out there. Access to Work is a publicly funded employment support program run by the Department of Work and Pensions. It aims to help disabled people to stay in work or move into work, and it provides practical and financial support for the employer. So if you have a disability or long-term health condition, it can help employers hire disabled people with the skills that are required. If somebody develops a disability or long-term health condition, it can assist the employee to help them retain their employment. And it demonstrates good employment practice. Access to Work can be used for financial support for the following. So aids or adaptations, adaptive equipment in the workplace, for people who are experiencing sight loss or hearing loss, it can provide adaptive technology. Certainly in the time that I've done this, the advancements in technology is absolutely incredible with speech activated software. For people who may have a condition which means they're vulnerable and they can't use public transport, it can be used to provide taxis to and from the workplace with people paying the equivalent of their bus or train fare. I work with a lady with a visual impairment, which of the winter months, it became very, very difficult for her to use public transport because of her sight loss. And Access to Work were able to provide taxis for her to get to and from the workplace. One of the things that our service does is when people move into work, sometimes the employer may not have the knowledge around disability. So we can provide a job coach, which is one of our members of staff that can provide awareness training, support the employer, and make sure that the individual that moves into work is fully included in the workplace. If you think about when you start work, quite often there's a massive e-learning modules around induction procedures and any company policies and things like that. For some people, that can be quite a barrier to moving into work. So a job coach can complement the training being given by the employer. And the last thing is a communication support interview. For a lot of people that we work with who use British Sign Language as a first language, it can mean that they have an interpreter when they move into work. There was a lady that I was supporting years ago who used BSL as a first language, and we provided an interpreter for her interview, but also for staff meetings and attending training courses. So access to work is something that can support people who do declare their disability that need support in the workplace, as well as those people moving into employment. So our organisation, we can work with you to understand your business needs. We can assist you with inclusive recruitment and selection processes, as sort of alluded to earlier in the workshop, that quite often people with disabilities may need some support with that. And it's making sure that your application and your working practices are inclusive. We can help you to define roles. So, we can provide you some support with writing job descriptions should you need be, and provide advice and guidance for working interviews. No two interviews for sort of role should be the same. So we will provide bespoke advice around that. We support new employees with disabilities to integrate into the workplace. And as I said before, we can provide specially trained job coaches to support the individual with the induction process and learning the role. And overall, we can support you to become a more inclusive employer. If you would like further information on this and you'd like to start your journey with us, please contact Mark Perrin. He's our Employment Engagement Coordinator. His email address is there and his telephone number's there. Thanks ever so much for listening to me, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Take care.